I would like to ask you about something you said in your podcast today, I believe it was, about immigration and how if we just have open borders or just open them or more, I guess, that a lot of immigrants will come in and basically just change our values and our American ideals. But I would disagree with that because, I mean, those ideals are written into our Constitution. They're kind of ingrained. And to change that would require, an amendment that would be an immense amount of work that immigrants just coming over couldn't.
Well, can we
couldn't
start with the
accomplish.
basic premise? I mean, the basic premise is that people around the world have different values. Not everybody has the same set of values, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if a group of people come in from an area where people have different values, that's presumably going to have some impact on the community, unless they change their values to adapt to the community into which they are integrating.
That's how we were built, right?
Right, and one of the reasons that we were built that way is actually specifically because of lack of a big government system. So a big government system actually creates a disincentive to assimilate. So when my great-grandparents got to the United States in 1907, when they got here, they didn't speak English. They came from a place where they basically had nothing, and there was no welfare system in New York at the time. And so they quickly had to learn English. They had to assimilate to the culture. They had to assimilate to the lifestyle. And this led to a greater level of assimilation because people were legitimately leaving behind property in countries they were coming from to come to a place where they had nothing, specifically to adventure, right? Specifically to try and grow a new life here without the help of a government. Well, one of the big problems that we have is vision of government. Right now, there are polls that show that a lot of immigrants who are coming in have a different vision of what government ought to be. They think that the government ought to be bigger, it ought to provide more social services, and they believe that because they come from countries where the government purports to do exactly that. If people aren't assimilating, that is a problem for the predominant culture in the United States, and I think that that's a bad thing. Like, I'm not talking about the cultural mores that make America more fun, make us richer, diet, religious differences, and stuff like that. I'm talking about root values as far as what you think the government should do for you or how social fabric should be built or how men and women should treat each other, because that's very different around the world. And if you refuse to acknowledge those differences in an immigration policy, you will end up with a lot of people coming in to take advantage of the fact that it's a pretty freaking great place to live, and then people refusing to assimilate on the basis of that. And in fact, this is what you've seen in Europe, right? You've seen huge populations coming from the Middle East who are not actually particularly ensconced in Western values and creating enclaves in a lot of Western European countries. And this has led to a backlash in terms of far-right governments being elected in places like Norway and Sweden, not on an economic basis, but on a cultural basis, right? Trying to crack down on that sort of immigration.
If they're also able to change our values, we would probably could convince them that the American ideals that we are based off of are the right way to go.
So I agree that we have the capacity in the United States to help change people's values. But the problem is that when we determine who gets to come in the country and who does not get to come in the country, the burden is on people to show that they should be able to come in the country. It is not on us to convert people coming into the country.